and welcome to Rounding to Significant Figures with Keep It Education. In this mini lecture, you will know how to round numbers to 1, 2 and 3 significant figures. So why do I need to round to certain significant figures? We round to certain significant figures if we want to use an approximation rather than writing out the whole number. This mainly applies to really large numbers or really small numbers. So this really large number is 2,345,000 and this really small number is 0.002345. Here's an example. If I wanted to round 2,345,000 to one significant figure, it means that I only want to look at the first number. So the first number that we see is 2 million. We need to look at the number next to it, which is a 3. Now, you need to know that if the number next to the one significant figure is a 4 or below, we leave the 2 as it is. But if it's a 5 or above, the 2 would be rounded up to a 3. So the 3 here is 4 or below. So we don't have to do anything to the 2, it just stays as it is. But the rest of the digits need to be zeros. So our 2,345,000 rounded to one significant figure is just 2 million. In your exam, you'll be asked to round numbers to one significant figure to work out an approximate answer to a solution, to a question rather. Okay, so let's go into a bit more detail on how to round to one significant figure. One significant figure means we look at the large number and think, how could I make this an easier number to work with? One significant figure means that they want you to think about that first number and write a number as close to that as possible using rounding. If you went to the supermarket and spent £32.20, you could say you spent around £30. You've rounded it to one significant figure. If I won £3,225,000 on the lottery, I could say I won just over £3 million on the lottery. It makes it easier for us to say and to estimate calculations. Let's look at this example. Round 3,137 to one significant figure. This is how we write one significant figure in shorthand. So let's look at the first number. That's a 3. That's the number that we want to keep because one significant figure means we just want that first number. To decide whether we leave that 3 as it is or round up, we must look at the number next to it, which is the 1. Remember, if that number next to it is 4 or below, we leave the 3 as it is. But if it's 5 or above, we round the 3 to a 4, to the next number up. As we can see, it's a 1. So we leave the 3 and put zeros where the rest of the numbers would be. So our answer is 3,000 to one significant figure. As you can see, we've kept the 3 and changed these last 3 digits to zeros. We've rounded down to 3,000 to one significant figure. Let's try this example. Let's look at the first number. It's a 3. To decide whether we leave that 3 as it is or round up, we must look at the number next to it, which is a 6. Don't forget, if it's 4 or below, it stays the same, and if it's 5 or above, it changes to a 4. As we can see, it's a 6, so we need to round the 3 up to a 4 and put zeros where the rest of the numbers would be. So we have put a 4 where the 3 was, we've rounded up, and then all of these other numbers are zeros. So it becomes 40,000. It was 36,275, but we've decided to say it's close to 40,000. So if you think about it, 36,000 is closer to 40,000 than it is to 30,000. Let's look at this number, 973,142. I want to round it to one significant figure, so let's look at the first number, that's a 9. To decide whether we leave that 9 as it is or round up, we must look at the number next to it, which is 7. Here's your rule again, just to remind you. If it's 4 or below, we leave it alone. If it's 5 or above, we need to round the 9 to a 10. So it's a 7, so we know we need to round up. So that 9 becomes a 10. And we just need to put zeros where the rest of the numbers would be. Now, if you look carefully, this 9 has been turned into a 10. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, which I've had to write down here. Now, once I've written them down, I have to write it in the right layout. I can't just put 10 and then 5 zeros. So instead, I go back every 3 zeros and put a comma. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma. That leaves us with an answer of 1 million to one significant figure. And you can see that you're right because 973,000 is very close to 1 million. Let's try this number. We have some decimals now. So this number would be 42,552.27. We're still rounding to one significant figure, so we look at the 4. And we look at the number next to it, which is a 2, to decide whether that 4 will stay the same. We should know by now that the 4 is going to stay the same. Okay, if you can't remember, there's your rule. If the number next to the one significant figure that we want is 4 or below, we leave it alone. It is 4 or below, so we're going to leave the 4 alone. If it was 5 or above, we'd round the 4 up to the next number, which is 5. So as we can see, it's a 2, so we're going to leave the 4 as it is, and we're going to add the zeros where the rest of the numbers were. Now, we do have a decimal point here, but it doesn't matter, we've cancelled it out. It's like saying I've got £42,552 and 27 pence. Well, I've decided to round down to 40,000 because my number next to the 4 was a 2. So if I've rounded down, everything else has disappeared, including the decimal points. Now, as you can see here, we don't need the decimal points. We can write them down and the answer would look like this. 40,000.00. So they don't actually mean anything and we just don't need to put them. It's unnecessary. Here's a few questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, try the questions, and I'll give you the answers shortly. So if you've paused the video, here are the answers. 3,147. We're looking at the 3, so our answer must be 3,000 because the number next to it is 1. 77,235. Well, we need to keep the 7, but is that 7 going to stay a 7 or is it going to change to an 8? Well, the number next to it is also 7, which means this is going to go up, which would give us 80,000. 8,0,0,0. 875,166. This 8 must change to a 9 because this 7 is bigger than 5, or 5 or above. So you would end up with 900,000. Finally, 76,332.56 is going to give us an 8 here because this is 5 or above. So this would be an 8 and then you've just got zeros. So we have 80,000 or 80,000.00. I highly recommend that you don't use this version. I'm just showing you that so you can see that how it works. The 0.00 would still be nothing, but this is a better way of writing it out. So let's move on now to two significant figures. If you have any problems with the previous one significant figure section or with significant figures in general, don't forget you can email us at info@cubiteducation.com with some questions, and if we can help you out, we will do. So let's look at this number, 3,148. We're going back to the numbers we used for one significant figure now, but I'm going to show you how you're going to round them to two significant figures. Two significant figures actually means we need the first two digits. So we need to keep the 3 and the 1. But the 1, which is the second number in line, is the one that you're going to change. Is the 1 going to stay as a 1 or is it going to change to a 2? To decide this, we need to look at the number next to it, the 4. If the 4 is a 4 or below, we leave it alone. If it's 5 or above, then we'd need to change the 1 to a 2. So just bear in mind, we don't change the number we're looking at. We'll change the number that's going to be our second significant figure, which is the 1. So the 4 means that the 1 will stay the same. So our answer is just going to be 3, 1, and then 0, 0. So we need two numbers, and then the rest will be zeros. Let's look at this example. 77,234. Okay, I've put 634 here by mistake. We'll use the 6. Okay, so we look at the second digit, which is a 7. And we need to decide whether that's going to stay a 7 or change to an 8. So we're going to look at the number next to it, which is a 6. Okay, so just ignore this. We're doing this one. My error, sorry. And the 6 is above 5, so it's 5 or above. So remember, if that 6 was 4 or below, we leave the second digit as it is, but because it's 5 or above, we need to change that second digit to the next number up, which is an 8. So we would just have an answer of 78,000, and the rest would be zeros. You must write the 2SF afterwards because it shows that that's what you've done, or the 1SF if we're doing one significant figure. Okay, right, 51,553.37, again to two significant figures. If we're rounding to two significant figures, we need to look at the second digit in line, which is a 1. And to decide whether we leave that 1 as it is or round up, we must look at the number next to it, which is the 5. Again, just a reminder of the rule, and I know I keep saying it, but it's very important. If that 5 is 4 or below, we leave the 1 alone. If it is 5 or above, we're going to round the 1 to a 2. So as we can see, it is a 5, so we're going to change that 1 to a 2. So it's going to be 5, 2, and then the rest will be zeros. So just a reminder, the first number doesn't actually change in this case ever. When we're doing two significant figures, it's always the second number that changes. We still need to keep this 5, but this 1 is what's going to change because it's two significant figures. It's these two we want to keep, but this one might change or it might not. Okay, and again, 0.00 to two significant figures, but I don't want you to put the 0.00. I just want you to leave it as 52,000. This makes no difference to your answer whatsoever. So here are some questions for you to have a go at. So pause the video, have a go at them, and I will give you the answers shortly. Okay, if you have paused the video, here are your answers. So 3,147, the 3 and the 1 are what we need to keep. The 1 won't change because the number next to it is a 4. So 3,100. 77,835. Well, it's the 7 and the 7 that we want to keep, but that second 7 will change to an 8 because the number next to it is 8. So it's above 5, so it would be 78,000. 875,166. It's the 87 that we want to keep, but the 7 will change to an 8 because the number next to it is 5 or above. So that's 880,000. Finally, 76,532. We want to keep the 7 and the 6, but because the number next to the 6 is a 5 or above, we need to change it to a 7. So you will have 77,000. Okay, I hope that's making sense so far. Significant figures aren't too difficult, but I can see why some people might struggle and struggle to get their head around it. So, finally, rounding to three significant figures then. So as you can probably guess, rounding to three significant figures means we need three numbers at the beginning. So let's have a look at this one, 3,148 to three significant figures. In this case, we have to look at the third digit along now, which is a 4. So we need to keep the first three numbers, but the third significant figure, we decide whether we need to change it or leave it the same. To decide whether we leave that 4 as it is or round it up, we must look at the number next to it, which is the 8. As we've seen before, that 8 is 5 or above, which means the 4 will change to a 5, leaving us with an answer of 3,150. Okay, so as we can see, it's an 8, which is next to the third significant figure. So we round that 4 to a 5. It's the next one over. So it's 3 significant figures because we have 3 numbers, and then anything else is a 0. 77,234 now. So we look at the third digit along again because it's 3 significant figures. And to decide whether we leave the 6 as it is or round it up, we must look at the next number, which is a 3. Well, as we know with the 3, it's less than 5. It's 4 or below. So that 6 will actually stay the same. Okay? So here's your rule, if you need it. If it is 4 or below, we leave it alone. If it is 5 or above, we round the 6 to a 7. Obviously, it's 4 or below because it's a 3, so we leave the 6 as it is. Okay, so we end up with 77,600 to 3 significant figures. The rest of the numbers become zeros. Okay, 51,553.37. Again, look at the third digit, which is a 5. Okay, 515. They're the numbers we need to keep, but the third digit might change. To decide whether we leave the 5 as it is or round up, we must look at the number next to it, which is also 5. If it is 4 or below, we leave it alone. If it is 5 or above, we round the 5 to a 6. As we can see, it is a 5, so we need to change the third digit from 5 to 6. So that would be 51600. Now, the 0.37 just disappears. We don't need it. Everything else becomes zeros. 0.00 can go on the end, but I do not advise. Sorry. Okay, 51,600 is our answer. 3 significant figures, remember, 3 numbers. Zeros are not significant figures. So here's a few questions for you to have a go at. And if you pause the video, I'll give you the answers shortly. Okay, so if you've had a go, here are your answers. 3147, 3,147. We need to keep the first 3 numbers, but the third number is a 4, but the number next to it is a 7. So that 4 needs to change to a 5. So you would have 3,150. 77,865. We need to keep 778, but the 8 will change to a 9. So 779 and 00. 875,766. We need to keep 875, but the number next to the 5 is 7, so that will round up to a 6. The 5 will change to the number above, so it's 876,000. Finally, 76,532.56. We need to keep 765. The number next to the 5 is 3, so the 5 will stay the same. So it will be 76500. Okay, you won't put decimal points on the end. Okay, excellent work. Thank you so much for using Qubit Education, and I will see you in the next video.